Yes, Rajiv, we are good to go. We are live on YouTube.
All right. So a very good evening to all the participants here. Uh, we welcome you all to the knowledge session for today, and that is on the 74th Constitution Amendment Act. And I am Rajvi Raja, one of the event coordinators for Prajatantra, and I would be your moderator for this knowledge session. We have amongst us today Miss Meghna Indurkar. She is the expert speaker for the day, and she is the program manager and strategic communication team at the Praja Foundation. We welcome you, and I would just like to reiterate the fact that throughout the session, whenever you have any doubts or queries, or if you have any questions, you can post them on the chat box, and we will definitely, try to answer them. Yes, over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Rajvi. Can you hear me well?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Rajvi, for that introduction, and good evening to all the participants joining in for Prajatantra, either online or in this Zoom session. And as you know, we are today, this knowledge session, we are going to talk about 74th Constitution Amendment Act and urban governance in India. And so far you have this is like the seventh knowledge session. If I'm correct on the number, it's the seventh knowledge session. You have had 6 knowledge sessions before, and I will definitely try to make sure to cover most of the topics that will help you in your presentations in your semi-finale, and that will also help you in your policy presentations, in your quiz, and your other competitions in your grand finale as well. And I would really like this to be interactive. I don't want to be speaking to a blank screen. So I would appreciate if you guys can put your camera on and have an interaction, and also put your questions on the chat box. I have my eye on the chat box. So put any questions during the whole presentations, the discussion that we are going to have. And at the end also, we'll open up for any questions that you guys have. But throughout the session also, I will have it interactive in a way that you can raise your hands, the virtual hands that Zoom has, raise hand option. And I would definitely like it to be interactive and hope it to be that way. So let me share my screen and we can get started with the 74th Constitution Amendment Act. Yeah, can you see my screen?
Yes, it's clear.
Okay, all right. Yeah. So whenever we talk about urban governance in India, we always say that there is 3 tiers of governance. Okay. So we have about 18, 20, close to 20 participants in this room. How many of you know, like, which are these 3 tiers of governance? Can you raise your virtual hands in Zoom if you know what are these 3 tiers of governance? Okay, I see one raise of hands. That's very good. Okay, 2, 3. Great. Manav Jyoti, Khushnoor, Aditi, Akash. Great. That's great. And thank you for being sport and being interactive. I would appreciate you continuing that. So I would like to take on this very foundation, because understanding these 3 tiers of governance is very important. And it is also important to understand why it is important. Okay, so hamara jo governance structure hai, it has 3 tiers, which means there is a union government at the India level, and then there are state governments. Okay, har ek state ka apna government hai. And then there are local governments. Okay, local again is bifurcated into 2, urban and rural, but that's the 3rd tier. So this is how we have a 3-tiered governance structure, and everything that is there in this system or in this structure is governed by the Constitution of India. So even these three tiers that we are talking about, or which are these three tiers, everything comes and stems from the Constitution of India. Okay. So yeah, this is what I was talking about. We have the central government, okay, which is also called as union government, then the state government, and then we have local self-government. And of course, because of the nature, like जैसे urban areas है और rural areas है, both have very different characteristics. So and India is such a very geography wise, everything is so different that we can't say that one size fits all approach will work, which is why at the most urban and rural differentiation we have done at the local level. So local governments may, we can see that there is an urban or a city government and a rural government structure that we have in place. Okay. Now, if we see, अभी तीन structure तो बना लिया, but we have to also divide responsibilities, right? So structure या levels बना के नहीं होगा. It is not just geography. It is also responsibilities that needs to be divided. So how are these responsibilities divided? Let's understand that. Now let's say, let's talk about the union government सबसे पहले, which is at the country level. So India में there's one union government, which is responsible for administration and governance of the whole country, and which is how we elect our members of parliament. The members of parliament elect a prime minister, and that whole system of union government is there to look after the governance across the whole country. Then at the state level, we have the state governments who are responsible for administration and governance of the state. And at the local level, there is Panchayati Raj institutions, which are responsible for rural. And in that also, there are three types. Zilla Panchayat hai rural mein, Panchayat Samiti hai, and Gram Sabha hai. Okay. ये जो criterias hai, these are determined based on the village boundaries, the population, the characteristics of these areas. And similarly for urban areas also, we have three units: Nagar Panchayat, Municipal Council, and Municipal Corporations. And for these also, there are different criteria that are outlined. कि कौन सा सिटी या कौन सा टाउन नगर पंचायत बनेगा, म्युनिसिपल कॉर्पोरेशन बनेगा या म्युनिसिपल काउंसिल बनेगा. This is decided by certain different criteria. Okay, so this is overall visually the structure that we have in place. Now let's understand कि इसके अंदर क्या होता है. Let's dissect and deep dive into each of these. So central government के अंदर there are two wings. Okay, there's one legislative wing and there's an executive wing. Okay, now in the legislative wing we have president, the Rajya Sabha and the Lok Sabha, and the whole agenda of a legislative wing is to discuss, debate, and legislate over matters that they are interested upon them. Okay, there are different matters that come and we'll talk about it, but these are the responsibilities come under the legislative wing, and President, Rajya Sabha and Lok Sabha are the committees and platforms and individuals who constitute legislative assembly. And similarly, there's like an executive wing, which is the president, the prime minister, and council of ministers. Okay. Now we elect our members of parliament who go and represent us in the parliament. Then whosoever forms the government, they select the prime minister, and like everyone votes for the prime minister, but the government then is formed, and they have the council of ministers put together, and there's a president. So president, prime minister, and council of ministers form the executive wing of the central government. Similarly, in the state government, there is legislative and executive wing. Okay, legislative wing again has two parts. Like जैसे हमारे पास central government में राज्य सभा है, वैसे ही legislative wing in the state government we have Vidhan Parishad and Vidhan Sabha. Now, how many of you here know if their state has a Vidhan Parishad or not? So every state has a Vidhan Sabha. Okay. Sare state ka Vidhan Sabha hai, where every matter is discussed. Laws are passed and legislated and discussed and debated. But not every state has a Vidhan Parishad. So how many of you know if their state has a Vidhan Parishad or not? If you can raise your hands. Okay. Okay, Gia probably knows. If you can put in the chat box which state and it has or not, that would be great. Anyone else? So I definitely recommend all of you to find out कि आपके state में, whichever state you belong, either okay, you are from Jammu Kashmir and you used to have it before 929. But yeah. But I would definitely recommend each of you to go back and see whichever state you are from or whichever state you are residing in right now, कि वहां पे विधान परिषद है कि नहीं. Okay. So that's how the structure of state government legislative wing is. And there's an executive wing again where there's a governor. Governor is appointed by the central government. Then there's a chief minister, and the chief minister has a council of ministers. So we can see that central government and state government, more or less, we have similar structure in terms of legislative and executive wing being there. Okay. Now let's talk about the 74th Constitution Amendment Act. Can you guys put in chat कि 74th Constitution Amendment Act कौन से year में आया था? Do you know which year was 74th Constitution Amendment? Okay, did I give it away? Okay, Jia says 1992. Nandini says 1992. Okay. Okay, Meghna Raj says 1993. Although we have the same name, I'm not sure if I can agree with you. But yeah, so Jia and Nandini is correct. It came in 1992, but was implemented in 1993. So Meghna, even though you're correct, but technically, the 74th Constitution Amendment Act will always be known as 1992 Act. But what was before 1992, right? 1992 mein to ye act aaya, and then we'll talk about what happened after that. So before 1992 also, har ek corporation, jaise we know that Madras, like which is now Chennai, or Bombay Municipal Corporation, or Kolkata Municipal Corporation, these were from the British era jo chal ke aa rahe the. So in corporations ka, they had their own act. So government, whichever government was there at that point in time, either the state or the central, they made a specific Bombay Municipal Corporation Act or a Kolkata Municipal Corporation Act, and ऐसे अलग-अलग act के अंदर ये सारे corporations बने थे. But then the central government realized कि see, हमारे पास दो level है. But we need to also make sure that citizens' ki demands and service deliveries and other things gets taken care of, and the government needs to be closer to the citizens. And that's when the central government put this 74th Constitution Amendment Act in motion. It was passed in 1992, implemented in 1993. And since then, the state governments were given power to key state governments अपने state में municipal corporations या this third tier, either panchayati raj या urban local bodies, they can establish this. So that's what happened in 1992. Now, we'll talk about what is the 74th Constitution Amendment Act, why it is important to understand both the 73rd and 74th. And ये आया कैसे? Like 1992 तक तो नहीं था. Then how come अचानक? What all they did to actually implement the 74th CA? Okay. Okay. So now what happened is 74th CA. अभी we've understood कि 74th के पहले it was only union or central and state. And then 74th introduced the third tier, which is the local governments. Okay, but abhi constitution governs everything that happens in our country, right? The system is governed by constitution. So amendment was done, and constitution mein there were articles which were added. Okay, so in the 73rd Constitution Amendment Act, which talks about the Panchayati Raj system, which means rural areas, Articles 243O यहाँ तक इंट्रोड्यूस किए गए थे and 11th schedule was added. So 11th schedule meant they had 29 items listed in that which were devolved to the Panchayati Raj Institute. And same 74th Constitution Amendment Act में Articles 243P to Article 243ZG were added, and there was a 12th schedule जिसके अंदर functions urban local bodies के outline किए गए थे. Okay, so 74th Amendment largely added these articles and schedules in the Constitution of India. And under that, for urban areas, we have, one second, let me. Yeah, for urban areas, we had Nagar Panchayat, which was a rural area being transitioned from rural to urban. We had municipal councils, which were defined as smaller urban areas, and municipal corporations, which were larger urban areas. Okay, if you actually go back and read the 74th Constitution Amendment Act, you will get more intricacies of what are the definitions of these, and I would definitely recommend that you go and read these. I know act padna thoda it is a little boring, and you get lost in reading the act, but I'll definitely recommend to you that you give it a try, or at least read different interpretations of it. Now, the 7th schedule of Constitution of India, उसमें क्या किया है कि जैसे मैंने बोला कि 3 लेवल पे गवर्नमेंट तो बाद में, पहले 2 लेवल की गवर्नमेंट थी, राइट, बट वो 2 लेवल के भी गवर्नमेंट में काम तो डिस्ट्रीब्यूट करना ही था. Like the Constitution had to make sure कि functions are distributed, and when the Constitution was being made, there was debate on making this 7th schedule और इसमें कहाँ क्या जाना चाहिए. So there are 3 lists in these schedules. First is the union list, which has about 97 items, and these are all responsibilities of the union government. Okay, and these specifically pertain to matters of a national interest, which means defense, foreign affairs, wars and peace, citizenship. ये सारी जो चीजें हैं ये एक national level पे affect करती है, union taxes, which is why these were put in the union list. Okay, and then there was a state list, there is a state list which has 59 items. And these were made in terms of हर एक state के हिसाब से they can customize these. So like policing, law and order, local governments, agriculture, industries, because every state has different type of industries, and culture, religion, forests, all of this was given to the state list. And there was also concurrent list. So concurrent list was made कि जहाँ पे भी overlapping आ रहा है, because we can't draw very strict boundaries when it comes to these functions, right? There'll obviously be a little overlap. So then there was a concurrent list where both these governments can make a law, and it included entertainment, electricity, unemployment, forests, and education, all of that. Now, if you see, local government is in the state list. Okay, now local government is the 3rd tier of government, but it is now put in the state list. इसका मतलब ये है कि हर एक स्टेट को अधिकार दिए गए हैं कि वो अपने अपने स्टेट में अपने स्टेट के कल्चर, ज्योग्राफी, रीजन के हिसाब से अपने लोकल गवर्नमेंट्स का स्ट्रक्चर डिसाइड कर सकते हैं. ओके, and that's how we see कि आपने देखा होगा, and in this प्रजातंत्र also you might have got exposure to understanding कि let's say एक Delhi municipal corporation और मे बी अगरतला म्युनिसिपल कॉर्पोरेशन या फिर देहरादून म्युनिसिपल कॉर्पोरेशन में मेयर के पावर्स डिफरेंट है, या मेयर का टर्म डिफरेंट है, या कमिटी अलग अलग है. इफ यू हैव लिसन्ड इंटेंटली टू योर फेलो पार्टिसिपेंट्स एंड कॉम्पिटिटर्स एज वेल, एंड दिस इज द रीजन क्योंकि हर एक स्टेट को अपना अपना पावर दिया गया है. तो स्टेट के अंदर इट वुड बी मोर और लेस कोहेसिव, but interstate when you go, the structure and powers of local governments will vary. Okay. Any questions you guys have, please feel free to put on the chat, and we'll definitely address it. Yeah, and ये सब जब कर रहे थे ये सब जब हम कर रहे हैं, we need to understand the principles behind it. Okay, to understand the principle is such that principle of subsidiarity है, which means कि कोई भी अगर काम करना है as a system, if a government has to work or a company has to work, the principle of subsidiarity says that the central authority should be only keeping matters of a larger interest, and the principles and the matters which are related to the local issues should be devolved to the lowest level of authority. Okay, तो अगर इसको हम हमारे गवर्नेंस स्ट्रक्चर से मैप करते हैं, दिस वुड मीन कि जो हमने सेंट्रल लिस्ट देखी, स्टेट लिस्ट देखी, and there is now a third list which we'll talk about, which is the 12th schedule, which talks about urban local bodies को क्या functions दिए गए हैं. So जो सबसे ज्यादा important नागरिक as a citizen, हमारे लिए जो सबसे ज्यादा important विषय है, वो हमारे पास में जो सबसे closest government है, वो responsible होना चाहिए. So if you look at it, the closest government to us would be the local government, either the urban government if you are in an urban setting, or a rural government if you are in a rural setting. Because in general, see, we elect councillors to our corporation, we elect MLAs to our state government platforms, and MPs for the parliament, for the union government. And हमें अगर किसी से मिलना है, तो easiest is to meet the councillor. Because if you have to meet the MLA or MP, it is a little more difficult, and the councillor वो आपके ही area में रहता है, so they know your area in and out, which is why the local governments become the closest to the citizens. And with इसीलिए it is important to give more power or devolve more functions to the local government. And also the 74th Constitution Amendment Act ensured that there should be regular elections of the corporation. There should be equal opportunity in terms of reservation of representation of different societies. Then the most important is State Finance Commission was set up, जिसमें State Finance Commission का function क्या होगा, वो taxation के powers कैसे होंगे, what are the arrangements for revenue sharing. So all of these tasks were given to the State Finance Commission. And another important thing that came up was establishing of ward committees. So 74th Constitution Amendment put structure to all of these important pointers. Now, जैसे हमने देखा 7th schedule में there was a list for what the union government should do, what the state government should do, and what would be overlapping, which is concurrent. The 12th schedule outlined 18 functions for the urban local governments to work on. Okay, what are these 18 functions? अभी ये 12th schedule में हमको 243W article के अंडर मिलेंगे. Okay, now there are a lot, but let's club a couple of these and understand कि ये functions क्या है. Now the first 3 functions or 4 functions, if you look at it, they are related to urban planning, including town planning, regulation of land use, planning for economic and social development, roads and bridges. So ये 4 functions mainly are responsible for planning for the whole city. Okay. The next couple of functions, water supply, sanitation, fire services, and urban forestry. These are more of services that we require on day-to-day basis or on emergency. So water supply, either it is domestic, हमारे घर में जो पानी आ रहा है, नल में पानी आ रहा है, या even कोई अगर commercial area है तो उसको water supply कौन कर रहा है, solid waste management, which is one of the very important services that corporations give. वो कैसे कर रहे हैं, all of that. Then comes to safeguarding interest of weaker sections of society, slum improvement and upgradation, urban poverty alleviation. So these three functions kind of put together focus on slum improvement, interest of weaker sections, and urban poverty, so that no one gets left behind. Then there's promotion of cultural and education aspect, regulation of slaughterhouses and tanneries, vital statistics, urban amenities. Of course, urban areas है तो urban amenities भी देखने होंगे, such as parks, playgrounds and gardens. ये सारी चीजें भी होनी चाहिए एक city में. Then burial grounds, cattle pounds, prevention of cruelty to animals, and public amenities using such as parking lots, street lights, bus stop, public amenities. So all of these form like the basis of what the local government should do, which are 18 functions. Okay. Now let me ask you a question. How many of you know कि आपके city में water supply कौन करता है? Can you raise your hand? If you or you can put it in the chat box if you know who supplies water. Okay, Gia knows, that's great. Ayush Thakur, good. Manav Jyoti, Aditya, I'm seeing the same names, but if you can also put on chat box if you know कि कौन सा गवर्नमेंट है या कौन सा एजेंसी है जो वाटर सप्लाई करता है आपके सिटी में. सूरत म्युनिसिपल कॉर्पोरेशन इन सूरत. ओके, that's good. State government through PHE department. Okay, this is Jammu and Kashmir. I think GI is talking about. Navi Mumbai Municipal Corporation. Yes. Yeah, so I'll definitely encourage that all of you, and thank you for responding in terms of hand raise or in chat. But I would encourage कि आप ये सारे 18 functions को समझिए कि आपके city में, either if you have taken it for Prajatantra or the city that you live in, who gives these functions? And especially because we have theme of economic, our Prajatantra theme is centered on economic. I will also suggest that you look after these services which the local government is supposed to give, and understand these, and understand at least currently आपके city में ये कौन दे रहा है functions. Okay. Yeah. So let's understand activities now. अभी हमने ये देखा, but so this is something that we have developed through our understanding and our research that we have done, our field works we have done throughout last many years. But the 74th Constitution Amendment does not really define the activities that come under these functions. There are different city governments which interpret it, and they have different activities clubbed under. But largely, if you see, these are the activities that will come under each of these functions. So if we talk about the first 4, जो हमने बात किया, so making of master plans, enforcing building codes, regulating land use, promoting economic activities, then construction of and maintenance of roads. So roads is another हम देखते हैं कि national highways है, that comes under national. State highways होते हैं, वो state के अंदर जाते हैं. But there are also roads that are managed and maintained and built by the city. Okay, parking, street lights, water, storage of water, providing connections, collection of charges, operation and maintenance. All of this probably would be done by one agency. Public health, sanitation, fire services, establishing and maintaining fire brigades, providing NOC for fire for approval certificates. Then urban forestry में there comes greenification, afforestation, maintenance of natural resources अगर city के अंदर कोई natural resources है तो. safeguarding weaker sections, there are identifying beneficiaries. There are so many schemes that come from the central government or the state government, or sometimes even local governments अपनी scheme run करती है for the weaker section of society. And identifying beneficiaries is one. Housing programs, scholarships, all of these activities come under here. Okay, slum improvement and upgradation, affordable housing. If you like, most of the cities do have their some slum improvement authority or slum development authority, which will come under this. Then promotion of cultural and educational aspects, which means heritage, public space beautification, vital statistics, birth and death. Every time there's a birth or a death, we see to go to these authorities. Which is this authority? We should find out कि हम कहाँ register करते हैं. Now, most of these would be online. So even if it is online, you would know which is the authority which will give you these certificates. And most likely for birth and death, it would be the municipal corporation or the local government which will give you. Amenities like bus stops, public conveniences, parking lots, street lights. Street lights is again, जब मतलब we don't as citizens pay much attention, but अगर हमारे घर के पास का street light बंद है, even at night, so then what is it that we will do? Whom do we approach? We should know whom to approach when we are having a little trouble as a citizen, right? So these are the activities that comes under 18 functions. So let's understand कि this is at a legislation level. ठीक है, हमें ये समझ आ गया कि structure क्या है, provisions क्या है, क्या activities करनी चाहिए. Now we'll understand कि exactly on ground situation क्या है, because not necessary जो on legislation बना है, it is translated exactly on ground, and that's the reality. So I have one video for all of you guys, and I would really recommend that you intently listen to it, because this video talks about why there is a need for improvement of urban governance in India and what can be done. Okay, let me just play it. Rajvi, just give me a thumbs up if you are able to hear the music.
Yeah. Yes, it's audible.
In the last 30 years, India has witnessed rapid urbanization. In 1911, the share of urban population in India was merely 10.29%. It took more than 100 years for the share to grow to 34% by 2018. But in the next 10 years, that is by 2030, it is predicted to jump to 50% or more. Evidently, India's urban population and urban areas are seeing an exponential rise. The economic growth of the country in the last few decades has caused its urban areas to attract millions of Indians in search for better opportunities. City infrastructures are not being able to cope with the demands of such mass migration. Today, many urban issues such as flooding of cities during heavy rains, spread of infectious diseases, unending traffic, sewage and waste management, lack of basic amenities such as drinking water, healthcare, and so on are crying for attention. Recognizing this problem, in 1993, the 74th Constitutional Amendment Act was enacted to strengthen urban local governance. It directed the states to devolve 18 functions that would be better performed at the local level to the city governments. Unfortunately, only a few states have done a partial devolution, and most of the state governments have been reluctant in transferring these 18 functions. As a result, India is one of the least administratively decentralized nations in the world. Many schemes have been introduced by the central government in the recent past, such as Jawaharlal Nehru Urban Renewal Mission, Smart Cities Mission, Amrut, Swachh Bharat, and so on. Some of the cities, owing to the state political will, have been able to harness these for betterment of urban areas, but even so, Indian cities seem to lack in livability standards compared to other metropolises in the world. Praja, with its work and experience in urban governance, decided to find answers to this problem. Praja decided to map the urban governance structures and practices across all states in India. Having spent 3 years visiting different cities across all states in India and having studied their urban governance architecture and practices, Praja was able to understand the root causes of the problem. The 74th Amendment and various schemes launched by the centre to revitalize urban India have not worked. Praja realized that the existing structures of governance would not be able to implement the 74th Amendment and the central government schemes. What we require to implement these efficiently is empowered grassroots democracy. This is the heart of the matter, and to advocate and achieve this, Praja has developed the Urban Governance Index. The Urban Governance Index will rank all states in India across different themes while highlighting their governance journey and best practices. This will enable other states to draw inspiration, learn, and implement similar practices. It will be a unique tool to facilitate advocacy, planning, and citizen participation. Indian states need to commit to making cities more democratic, empowered, and accountable. Only then can cities fulfill the aspirations of our citizens. In 2023, India will complete 75 years as an independent republic. Let us recommit ourselves to further strengthening our democracy by empowering grassroots institutions. The Urban Governance Index will help states pave a roadmap towards effective city governance.
Yes. So, as you saw in the video, we need to empower. So we have this three-tiered governance system, जो काफी thoughtfully बनाया गया है. But the third tier is not really empowered. And like we saw in the video, Praja then started a journey of 3 years where we went to more than 40 cities across 28 states and National Capital Territory of Delhi. We interviewed more than 1,500 interviewees, stakeholders, including elected representatives, administration, and civil societies across these cities. We had multiple consultations in state and region and national level. And from that study, then हमने एक index तैयार किया, which is called as Urban Governance Index, which actually ranks state on the level of devolution they have done, क्योंकि state के हाथ में है, right, devolve करना powers to the city government. So which is why we've ranked the states based on how much power they have devolved, how much empowered they have a local government in their state. And this is the structure of Urban Governance Index. Like you saw in the video also, there are 4 themes, 13 sub-themes, and 42 indicators. For a broad understanding, I'll just talk about ye 4 themes and sub-themes kya hai. So usually, like I said, 4 themes. The first theme is about empowered elected representatives. Like we saw कि हमारे union and state में there are executive and legislative. Similarly, in our local level, we have our elected representatives and administration. Elected representatives meaning हमारे councillors है, उसमें से एक mayor आता है. Somewhere there are directly elected mayors, so you will have that. And it is important to empower these elected representatives and the legislative structure. Okay, now the sub themes here are empowered mayor, empowered councillor, empowered council, and constitution of deliberative committees. Now, all of these are very important aspects. I would definitely recommend कि आप अपने city में समझिए कि mayor के पास क्या power है या कौन-कौन सी committees form होती है corporation में, because that will give you a good standing on making your policies, may it be finance, may it be your policy on urban economy, or your other submissions that you're going to do as a part of Prajatantra. So these structures play a very important role in the overall governance system at the local level. But at the same time, administration be equally important, right? Because administration is the one where there are executives and they make sure that the work is done. So it is important to give control and training of human resources with them, and also give devolution of the 18 functions जो हमने पहले देखे, devolve those 18 functions to the city administration. Then we have empowered citizens. So citizen is the third pillar that we have, and it is also important to empower citizens. So as citizens, हमारा काम सिर्फ खत्म नहीं होता if we give vote. Okay, we have to be very active citizen in governance. And how can we do that? When we have like an open data portal available for us to see कि हमारे city governments क्या कर रहे हैं, what are the policies that are being approved, what is the budget of city government, if we have the right to elect mayor and recall our elected representatives. In case elected representatives are not working and working to their mandate, we should have a right to recall them. Then we should have a formal and active citizen consultative mechanism, because these are the platforms जहाँ पे हम as citizens अपने suggestions रख पाएंगे. And then have a absolutely important grievance redressal mechanism. Like I said right earlier कि अगर street light नहीं जल रहा है या पानी नहीं आ रहा है या roads बहुत खराब है, where is it that you go to complain? Okay, find these things out कि आप कहाँ कंप्लेन कर सकते हो, कौन से नंबर पे कर सकते हो, वो कौन सी अथॉरिटी है जो आपका कंप्लेन सॉल्व कर सकती है, क्या वो लोकल गवर्नमेंट है या वो स्टेट गवर्नमेंट है या कोई और डिपार्टमेंट है. So find these out. This is very important for empowerment of citizens. And then there is fiscal empowerment. Of course, without money, there is no real empowerment that will come to the government, right? अगर पैसे का ही decision नहीं ले पाते हैं, there's no real empowerment that will come, which means devolution of financial power, systemic fiscal transfers from the state to from the center to the state and then to the local governments. And then accountability. Accountability is also very important because हम सिर्फ empower नहीं कर सकते. It is like a double-edged sword. If we are giving empowerment, we have to also make them accountable. It can't just be one. We have to ensure that there is both empowerment and accountability. And you can definitely go on and read the Urban Governance Index. We also have another video on our website and our YouTube channel where we have detailed out about these themes and sub-themes and ये क्यों होना चाहिए, and all of those details I would definitely recommend you guys to see. Okay. Now let's say हमने अभी देखा राइट कि 18 functions devolve किए करने चाहिए state government ने. But what is the actual reality on ground today? Okay, so we have mapped all the 18 functions in all the states कि कितने states ने ये 18 functions devolve किए हैं to city governments. And if you see this checkered board, इसमें the lightest blue is functions which are under the city government, जो city government को दे दिए हैं. Second is functions under multiple agencies, मतलब वहाँ पे एक से ज़्यादा agencies काम कर रही है. Either it is corporation plus state government or corporation plus parastatal or अलग-अलग parastatals, but there are multiple agencies. And the dark blue is one which is under the state government completely. So state government ने वो control छोड़ा नहीं है. So if you see here, we can largely see कि ये पहले 5-6 जो हैं functions, these are more or less with the state government or multiple agencies. और ये कौन से functions है? Like we saw earlier also, urban planning, land use, economic development, roads and bridges, water supply. It's also because largely these are very high revenue generating or important subjects, functions. If you see the 6B, ये 6B पूरा almost city government को devolve किया गया है, and this 6B is solid waste management. So जो हम अभी स्वच्छ भारत में भी देखते हैं that the cities are able to do a lot more is because solid waste management पूरी तरीके से cities को devolve कर दिया गया है to manage in the city, right? So which is why we have seen so much progress also. And overall अगर एक look देते हैं तो we know कि not a lot of functions are devolved to the city government. So there's still even though 25 years से ज़्यादा हो गए हैं since the 74th Constitution Amendment Act came, but there's still a large part of the journey to be made towards the total empowerment and devolution of functions for the city governments. And then we come to the last section of this knowledge session, which is fiscal empowerment of city governments. And like I said, कि अगर हम बाकी जो themes है, those are 3 pillars, 3 constituents, right? Elected representative, administration, and citizen. But fiscal empowerment is like the table on the top where you have to give fiscal empowerment to city governments, जिसके बगैर there will not be real empowerment. So then after UGI, we started to do another study to see कि financially cities कितना empowered है. Okay, and again, this study was divided into three phases. We've had different number of cities, so 14 cities across 7 states in phase 1, 17 cities in phase 2, and 13 cities. So total 44 cities across 30 states. हम study कर रहे हैं to understand कि एक तो finance का data available है कि नहीं, fiscally कितने empowered है, and also we're building a network of stakeholders जो finance domain में है, and we can probably build capacity of everyone together. Now, how many of you आपके policy presentation में you had, right, municipal finance का policy present करना है, and I think tomorrow you also have the second round of it in semi-finale. So how many of you actually went and saw आपके corporation का budget either on the website, or if it is not on the website, then physically आपके corporation office में जाके? Okay, Ayush Thakur, great. Jia, great. Aditi, very good. Okay, that's really nice that you guys took that initiative. But I will recommend others also to definitely आप आपके जो भी city आपने choose किया है, go through its website, see if they do have municipal corporation budgets. And while we are at it, let me talk about, so this is the framework under which we are assessing. We are looking at data available hai ki nahi, which means unke budget documents or audit documents. All of you should definitely see the audit documents as well, ki wo website pe dal rahe hai ki nahi. Then we look at उनको independent powers है कि नहीं, taxes बढ़ाने के लिए, नए taxes add करने के लिए, खुद का budget approve करने के लिए. Then which state finance commission, which was one of the important parts of 74th Constitution Amendment, are the state finance commission being formed? Are they giving their reports? Is the state taking it into consideration? An action taken report aa raha hai ki nahi? Then is there financial transparency and accountability in different ways? And then we're looking at a lot more financial indicators of annual growth, per capita, percentage share, etc. Yeah, and if you see this, this is like so far whatever study we have done. यहाँ पे हमने green dots you can see कि उनका budget document website पे है. Yellow means partially available hai, red means not available, and gray means website is not accessible. Okay, so I would suggest that you see for your own city also, यहाँ पे भी, and then go to the website also to check कि सच में latest. So this is till 22-23, but even 23-24 budget documents should be available on the website, right? So see those website documents अगर वो है या नहीं है. Okay, with this, I think we've come to the end of the session and what I had to share with all of you. But I would definitely like for you guys to share questions that you have either in the chat box or if you want to raise your hand, and we can see if we can unmute you and you can ask your question.
Yes, we can do that. If participants have any questions or they want to, discuss something, if you can raise your hands, we can unmute you so that you can go ahead with the discussion. For anybody, any questions or anything you want to discuss?
So before, I mean, if no one has a question, we can do a probably series of interactions again with the participants present here. And I would like you guys to raise your hands based on the questions that I ask, okay? Now, see, when you're making policies for the city, of course, policies have to be backed with numbers, right? Financially, कुछ ना कुछ policy में backing होना चाहिए if you're taking action on ground and it is not just recommendation. So, how many of you would actually like to go and see the budget document and accordingly frame your policies? Okay, Aditi is there. Jia, wait. Krishna, Sanya. Great, that's great that you would like to do this, but I would suggest that you go and do. Now, if let me ask maybe Krishna. So Krishna, if you can share, let's say you have to make a policy, आपको policy बनानी है, आपको budget के बारे में पता करना है, but वो budget ही corporation के website पे available नहीं है. What will you do?
Krishna?
Good evening, Ms. Meghna.
Yes, good evening, Krishna.
Could you please repeat your question?
Yeah, so let's say you have to work out a policy either on municipal finance or your urban economy, but you don't have your budget document on the website, which is well, the corporation hasn't put their budget documents or audit documents on the website. What will you do?
Frankly speaking, I have no idea what to do then.
Okay, so which means you agree that the city government, the corporation should put their website, put their budget documents on the website.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there are options. You can definitely go to the corporation office and ask for these budget documents because these are public documents, and we can definitely, as citizens,
Yeah, we can access RTI. Yeah.
not RTI, even try directly going and meeting them and tell them that you are doing this and you're a part of this national competition and you want to understand the budget. Most,
Okay.
like my experience has been, most municipal corporations would be happy to help you. But if not, RTI is of course there to the last resort. But yeah, it's very important to understand the budgets that the municipal corporations have. Okay.
Okay.
Now, thanks Krishna for sharing. Now, how many of you know कि आपके city का mayor कैसे elect होता है? How is the mayor of your city elected? Okay. Anyone else other than Jia? Aditi. Okay. Manavjyoti. Okay, how about Aditi, if you can unmute and share which city and how is the mayor elected?
Yeah, sure. So I'm from Mumbai city, and the mayor here is actually elected by the councillors. The citizens don't get to elect the mayor here.
Yeah, correct. So Mumbai has a indirect election of mayor, which means the citizens of Mumbai together elect councillors, and councillors amongst themselves elect one of them as the mayor. And I think Jia had also raised his hand, and I would like his, I mean, I'm not sure, but Jia, if you can share how is the mayor of your city elected?
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, I am from Jammu, and here also we first elect councillors, and then the councillors from among themselves they elect the mayor, and so we can say indirectly they are elected.
Correct. That's correct. Now we discussed two scenarios जहाँ पे indirectly elect होते हैं mayors. Is there anyone here जिनके city में mayor is elected directly? कोई है जिनके city में direct elections of mayor होते हैं? Okay, I think we don't have the representation from those states or cities here. But anyone who knows कि direct election कैसे होता है, what does it mean? Direct election of mayor. Anyone who can give it a try? ओके नो इश्यूज लेट मी शेयर जैसे हम इनडायरेक्ट इलेक्शंस बोलते हैं राइट जहाँ पे we elect like as citizens we elect councillors and councillors among themselves elect the mayor but in the direct election system all the citizens elect mayor directly. So mayor is not a councillor of any ward. Mayor is only the mayor of city. He or she will represent the whole of city, not like a ward eventually. So that's the difference, and I would like suggest that you go through the UGI and see कि कौन से cities है, कौन से states है जिसमें directly elected mayor है, कौन से cities and states है जिसमें indirectly elected mayor है. Okay, I think we are almost about time. And I would really like to thank the participants for being interactive and hand it over to Rajvi.
Yeah, thank you so much, Meghna ma'am, for such an insightful session. I'm sure all of us have gained a lot of knowledge about urban governance index, about how the powers of the government vary and all of that. And I would also like to take this opportunity to thank our participants for being here and being interactive. And I would request all the participants, if they can turn their cameras on, we would like to take a snap. I would request all the participants to please keep their cameras on. Yes, others to please come on the screen so that we can see you. The participants, I request, please turn on your cameras. Thank you.
Hello, guys.
Yes, thank you so much, ma'am. Also, we have one orientation session that would be engaging for all the participants. We would take you through the semi-final round that starts from tomorrow. So participants are requested to please stay back.